coming out. We have a lot of work to do.
Okay.
It was good though.
It was good that you went there, got that information. Okay, so a lot of laws have been changed. There are a lot of issues that the Securities Commission was having.
And they
And so,
divided their departments.
yeah, they divided their departments. Why do you think they divided their departments?
To make it easier for them, because all of these new laws, so you can appoint one officer per client.
Right, so now everybody has a relationship manager, and what that means is you're gonna have that direct support and that direct monitoring. So, in the past, you would find that, hey, how you doing? You would find that the regulators were like kind of overwhelmed dealing with all the licensees, but now they have, I guess, segregated each financial institution based on the size and complexity. I guess all trust companies and their size, or capital markets and or commercial banks, and they've assigned somebody, and they call it the analytics unit. And so this analytics unit has been sending out surveys, 200 question surveys from January, based on your size, complexity, the markets that you deal with, the type of products and services that you offer. And so if you don't have this information on hand, what do you do? How do you answer these 200-word questionnaires that the regulators are gonna now send out annually? What do you do? No, you have to have it documented, right? Because remember what we talked about last week, the risk appetite. You have to say, my appetite is I'm gonna deal with persons from Russia and Afghanistan and Iran. So how do you think you'd be rated if you do that? High? Okay. What if you have a risk appetite for pets? Bring all the pets. High. Okay. All right. What if you offer correspondent banking? High. Right. Okay. So when you write all these things in your risk appetite, right? Because that's the next thing that's happening, that central bank is enforcing. Like, you were supposed to have a risk assessment of your bank, and they just said, oh, do you have it? It wasn't detailed. They didn't have any framework or structure in place. And so this year now they've come out with a whole framework, structure, these musts when you are in these markets. Okay, and so this basically what chapter 5 talks about. When you're in these type of markets, what is required? What your bank must have in place. So we say, if we're going into these markets, we must have somebody sufficiently trained who understands Venezuela, right? We can't say we're going into Venezuela and we have nobody that speaks Spanish and we have nobody that's even familiar with the environment in Venezuela, correct? Or we going into Russia, we have nobody that speaks Russian, okay? So what happens when all these documents come in Russian? How do you interpret?
Translate.
Okay. Who though? Who could like really seriously, and that's the problem that we have now. We got 10 Russian clients, everything came in Russian, and there's nobody on the island who can translate it. Everybody who will be contacted, they said they have to send it out and it'll be back in 3 weeks.
You can't ask the client to translate that in.
No, you can't ask the client to translate. Because, you have to make sure they translate. But tell me, if this says, I do terrorist financing, what do you think in the sign? Okay? And I don't know, from my old class, I told you in the past, we had persons who open up accounts, and when they sign their signature, they put MYFB. Okay, and not until we got a subpoena from the United States to block this account did we find out what MYFB meant. What do you think that meant? Yes. Yes. Okay. And then when we did a review of these files, we found some writing in Chinese, which was supposed to be a proof of address, but we accepted that proof of address in Chinese and we put it on the file. And when we look at it, it was something he created. It says, I like pepperoni pizza. I like it with extra cheese and tomato. When we got it translated, and we had that on our file for like 5 years.
Wow.
But not until we got a regulatory visit, and they said, this is unacceptable. What does this say? We had to find somebody who spoke Mandarin and get it translated. Okay, so that's another thing. All your documentation must be in English. Okay?
So it has to be a particular certified person.
Yeah, and it has to be certified, right? So another mistake that we made in the past is we got these things certified, they were stamped, and a nice signature was on it. We said, oh yes, this is certified. But what does the signature say? And who is this person? We can't read this name, right? And we don't even know which jurisdiction this person from.
It has to be a apostille, depending on which jurisdiction.
Yeah, apostille if you don't do a lot of work, like we do a lot of work with Russia, so we now comfortable with our contact in Russia who will send us documents. But in the first instance, everything had to be apostille, yeah. Okay, but on these people who verify or certify, they have a registration number. And what you are supposed to do is go to your system, put in their city, and see if their registration is still valid. Because a lot of them are kicked off the register and they can't validate anymore because they've been in like money laundering cases or fraud cases already. So don't take it that, oh yeah, I see this nice little signature and this came and they got it certified. No, you actually got to go and check to see if that person is registered. And if it comes without a written name that you can interpret, you send it back. If you can't pull it up on the registry, then you have to ask for that person to provide a copy of their current certificate. And just like our business licenses or what have you, it should expire each year, or maybe 2 or 3 years, but you have to get it. Okay, because that's how a lot of fraud happens. And then we find that some people, I say, okay, fine, I get certified in my capacity based on what I know. We expanded the guidelines to say doctors, lawyers, priests, pastors, bankers, right? Okay, so you have to check all that. At the end of the day, the whole purpose is to what? No, yeah. There you go. Very good. Okay, so back to the products and service. So if we said we now want to offer bearer shares. Okay, years ago we used to have a lot of accounts with bearer shares, and then what happened? Does anybody know? Yeah, the Bahamas made it illegal. Okay? So, but there are some jurisdictions that didn't make it illegal, right? And so we had those accounts open. What do? Do we call up everybody and say, hey, bearer shares is illegal in the Bahamas now, so we won't close your account?
No, you carry out enhanced due diligence with those persons.
Okay. Why? Based on what?
Because you don't know who the beneficial owner is.
Is that why?
It could be anybody.
Right, so the Bahamas made it illegal, some other jurisdictions made it illegal. So in the first instance, what we had to do is go and see what jurisdictions made it illegal. So Panama has just made it illegal this year or last year. So up until now, we had some bearer shares from Panama. But now that Panama has made it illegal, we had to call those customers in and we had to say, you have to change this to ordinary, or we have to close your account because now your country has made it illegal. Okay, and vice versa, when the Bahamas made it illegal years ago, that's what had to be done. Okay, so back to our appetite and the products and service. So now we say we're going to take bearer shares. What do we do? In our risk assessment, because we would have told the regulators, we accept accounts that offer bearer shares. What would be the steps that we take? Morning. Anybody? Remember now, we implementing a compliance system. We want a control in place to ensure that this high risk service or product that we offer is properly controlled. Somebody is monitoring these accounts, somebody with sufficient experience. So we say we have somebody who's qualified, first of all, and we'd say we provide their resume. And at one point, Central Bank has asked for our traders, send me all the resumes for the traders. Let me see if they're sufficiently qualified. So no more friends and lovers, and you're given in this type of industry. You have to ensure that these people, if they are your friends, they are at least qualified on paper. All right? So what do you do for your risk assessment to tell Central Bank that you have controls in place for bearer shares? What would be the first thing you do? Okay, you go find, but remember now, you documenting, you telling Central Bank what your control is for this service. Because now every time a new product or service comes to the bank offers a new product or service, it comes to compliance for a review. What are you gonna do in your review?
You know, the corporate policies you have in place to manage these risks, whether it be
Policies and controls.
Right, so you go risk rate this product or service first, right? And then you go see if you have any policy and procedure in place with it. Suppose you don't have none, what you could do?
What is implemented?
You have to implement it, right? So along with this product, you would say, these are the risks associated with this product, and this is what I'm gonna do. So where you get this information from? How you gonna know what risk? How you know what, this mortgage back loan, or what loans by phone or money, all these things that we offer now, it normally comes out from the sales team. What they have on the spot financing this week, no down payment, stuff like that, right? All these sorts of stuff. How do you know what risk associated with it? Where do you go? Okay, you do your research and what you come to. Your Bible, right? Okay, so here you go. This is the old one. So this is central bank guidelines, right? Who feel like reading? No volunteers? Okay, here we go. We want to offer bearer shares, right? So we never offered bearer shares before. This is a new product. What do? We go to the central bank guidelines. We see what they say on bearer shares. Yeah, so you start, okay, there we go, page 45, and I noticed with this guidelines and the law, so it says page 45, go to page 46. Oh, there you go. Okay, so read us what it says about bearer shares, because now we want to offer bearer shares, or accept accounts that have bearer shares.
When assessing the risk of a particular relationship, SFIs
Supervised financial institutions.
should consider whether any illegal person who is the customer, beneficial owner, or underlying principal has issued or it has the potential to issue bearer shares. Bearer shares can provide a significant level of anonymity, which can be abused by those seeking to use the companies for a criminal purpose.
That tell us what to do yet though, with control in place. Remember, this is a new thing. We never offer this, we don't know what to do. Okay, so keep.
In circumstances where such a relationship has been identified in order to address the specific risk of such relationship, FSI should undertake the following enhanced CDD measures.
What they say, what that is? That's the
Customer
first thing
due
that we can do?
diligence.
Enhanced due diligence. So this is what you document. I offer this product, bearer shares. My first thing is enhanced due diligence. What is enhanced due diligence? Give me an example. So we know what the minimum requirements are to open an account. Passport, NIB, proof of address, and source of income. Right? So what can we do?
Character references.
Right, we can ask now for character reference,
Customer identification, all that.
a bank reference,
Bank reference.
source of wealth. Now that's the difference with enhanced due diligence. For every other
Character
account,
reference, okay.
yeah, for every other account is source of income, meaning your pay stub or your job letter. For enhanced due diligence is source of wealth. And so this is where we'd ask for the character reference. This is where we'll do not just a word check, but a Google search on the person, right? We have a system in Canada, it's called proximal reporting. We go to proximal, we pay them $1,500 and they provide us with a report. And this is in the offshore world. And so this report, they go into their country. Where this person from? Iran. We don't know nothing about Iran. So they'll go into Iran, they'll say who the person's family is, what they do, if they politically exposed in any way, their business, how the community feels about them, and if this is a successful business person or not. Okay, and we pay $1,500 for that report. It's called proximal. So this is what we say we do for enhanced due diligence. Google searches, then we go to OFAC, then we check the sanction list, then we go to proximal, we get this report. And then if this person says, I own this successful business, we don't just accept that. We say, give us a copy of your audited financials. If they say, I inherited this from my father, we say, give us a copy of the will. I sold a piece of property, give us a copy of the conveyance. And so this is enhanced due diligence. So on your risk assessment, for your controls, you list these things. This is what I do to mitigate all risk. These are the controls that I have in place. These high risk accounts are with my senior persons. Yeah, so in levels we have entry level, then middle management, and then senior management. And so in our private banking department, all the high risk accounts are with senior management. Okay, so these are the type of controls that they look for. So tell us what else is required for bearer shares.
Measures to ensure that the standard evidence of identity is obtained and the customer will have issued or have the potential to issue bearer shares are not misused for money laundering and or terrorist financing. Only open accounts for companies capable of issuing bearer shares where the holders and beneficial or owners of those shares are verified in accordance with the guidance under the section. Identification procedures. Establish procedures to ensure that they are notified whenever there is a challenge of holder and or beneficial owner.
Okay, what they say do?
Identify.
No, they say establish a procedure. Okay, so in your risk assessment, that's the next thing that you have to say. A procedure was specifically established to ensure that when there's a change in beneficial owner has been documented and you provide it. Okay, so the first thing was enhanced due diligence.
They have that
The
potential.
second thing was we make this high risk, or the first thing was high risk and then enhanced due diligence. The next thing was we established the procedure specifically just for bearer shares. Okay? That's three things what we saying controls. Everybody, this clear? Did everybody understand? Sure. Okay, if you were
controls
present,
that-
This the controls that you would put in
place, right,
if somebody comes to open up a.
an account, because no, remember now, we just going out to the regulators and we saying this is our risk appetite. These are the type of products and services that we offer. And so if it's a new product or service or any existing product or service and it hasn't been risk rated or checked, this is the duty of the compliance department. This is what the compliance department will do.
So they have also checked, see they have even the potential, even to carry a bearer share as well.
Right, if that country, that's another thing, you will check to see if it's legal in the country. Because like I said, Panama offered it up until this year. And so we had a few accounts from Panama that gave us bearer shares. So the next thing is, now that at any moment these countries can change their minds, what must you have in place too? An exit strategy to close these accounts. If these persons say, well, no, I don't have time to go and change. My company been a bearer share company for 10 years and I don't care that the government changed the law. I'll close the company first or whatever. So you have to have an exit strategy to ensure that
It's closed.
it's closed. Right? And you have the right, you have to document it. You can't just say we have an exit strategy. And so in this same policy that you provided or documented to say this is the steps that we are gonna take, have an exit strategy in there in the event something like this happens. Or we could have had some fraud, right? And we could have said, today I'm a law-abiding citizen, tomorrow I decide to join Al-Qaeda, right? And now I'm no longer law-abiding. So you get a hit on my name and then you have to now close the account, okay? So all that should be documented in your exit strategy. These are undesirable accounts. If this happens, that happens, that happens. We don't need to go to get the board approval. So for this policy, you'll get board approval. So that's the next control you could put in place. That at the highest level, this policy will be approved and I will have it approved annually once by the board. So in the instance of something happening, like we just got a positive hit on somebody who was charged with money laundering. And so we don't need to go to the FIU and ask permission. We have already documented in our policy if we get positive hits, we are gonna file an SDR, we are gonna close the accounts. And we'll advise the regulator, right? So this is the action that we're gonna take right now. Okay? Okay, so keep reading, see what else we have to do.
As a minimum, these procedures should require SFIs to take the following measures. A, obtain an undertaking in writing from the beneficial owner which states that immediate notification will be given to the SFI if shares are transferred to another party.
Okay, so that's the next control, right? That means when you come to open up this bearer share account, you can't open it if you don't bring us a letter that states that you will advise us if you do that change. Because how else will we track it? How else will we know when you decide to transfer these shares over to Bin Laden if you don't tell us? So we hold you at your word, but this word can hold up in court. And this will protect us from being, because that's the first thing. When you don't have the proper controls in place and subpoenas come from the Attorney General or from the US, they say you didn't have sufficient due diligence procedures in place, you were negligent. You allowed these people to infiltrate your system. And so you get charged. And I don't know if you all been seeing these big $1 billion charges. Almost every bank, if you do SWIFT payments, you will see that almost, everybody have a specific SWIFT number. Almost every bank have a hit. Citibank, Deutsche Bank, Chase Bank, and these the big boys. Civil penalty is this $1 billion, that $1 billion, all for negligence and not paying attention to sanctions and stuff like that. Okay? So that's your next thing. A letter of undertaking taken from the beneficial owner saying that I promise not to transfer this without advising you. And so once they advise us that they want to transfer this money to Bin Laden, what will you do?
Close it. Or STR.
Okay, so Bin Laden is too known. Okay, let's see. Somebody else, anybody.
Research on
The Kwame Ryan, we wanna transfer this to Kwame Ryan.
Research it.
Okay,
He's a good fellow.
that's it. Okay, and there you go. And say, open up 3 accounts. Right. So this is why we wanna know, because we wanna ensure that this person, new person that you're transferring these shares to, doesn't have right, any hits, any negative media, whatever. So already be overwhelmed by this process because this is just one product. And this is why when we do our risk appetites, banks say, too much administrative cost. I don't want no PEPs because I don't want no negative media. I don't want no bearer shares, I don't want no wholesale, and I don't want no correspondent banking. That's not within our risk appetite. Right? And so when the regulators come in, they check to make sure you don't have none of these things. If you do, they give you a note. Because they say where your controls. You say, I won't deal in these type of businesses, and therefore we didn't require you to put these controls in place. But when you say you deal in these businesses, they come to look for your controls. Okay, so tell us what else. A letter undertaken from the beneficial owner. We still all on the same track. Still clear as mud. You understand? Okay, good. Okay.
Ensure that where bearer shares are not held by the SFI, that they are held in secure custody by a named custodian which has undertaken to inform the SFI if any proposed change in ownership of the company or if any changes to records relating to the shares and the custodians.
Okay, so what else that? That's something else we have to do. The person who holding the shares now have to give us a letter too. And they say we confirm that if this share is transferred to Kwame, we can let you know too. Just in case the person who's transferring the Kwame don't tell you, we can tell you. Right? Or you have to hold the share yourself. So that's 3 things. The beneficial owner has to bring in a letter. They either have to bring us the share and let us hold it so there can be no changes without us knowing, or the person who holds the share has to also bring a letter. Right? Okay. That's it?
And depending on the risk assessment of the customer, having the undertaking certified by an accountant, lawyer, or equivalent professional.
Okay, so you can't just go on Word or on your phone and send one email and send it to the bank. Right? It has to be certified. And it has to be original, I would imagine, or certified, right? And so these, how many different things did you have to do just to offer a bearer share? Pardon?
7 or 8 right there.
Okay. Now you see how you end up with an entire policy on just bearer shares. Okay, and after that, then you have to put a monitoring schedule in place. This is high risk, so how often is it gonna be reviewed? Every year. High risk is every year, medium is every 2 years, low is every 3 years. So every year, every account that has bearer shares has to be reviewed. First by the relationship officer, then by compliance.
When you say bearer shares, what do you mean?
Okay, so there are two types of shares. There's either ordinary or bearer. Ordinary means you have to go into your local authority and or have somebody do your legal work to do a transfer of shares. They do some upstamping of your documents, your memo and arts or what have you, to transfer this or to sell these shares. Bearer shares mean, Kwame, I need $20,000. You have it. Let me transfer these shares to you. We ain't need no lawyer. We ain't need nobody, no documentation.
So they just won't go inside the bank and transfer the shares from one person.
They don't have to go nowhere. They could go to their lawyer and say, let me turn this over to Kwame. It don't have to be registered nowhere but your country and your memo and arts and nowhere. So today I own the company, tomorrow Kwame or Bin Laden or any terrorist in the world. So remember, my name clean now, right? I go into money launder or I get charged. Immediately before I get charged, the courts will take 3 or 4 years. Or they charge you and nothing come out for 3 or 4 years till you start going to court. So I want to protect my assets. So they can say, freeze everything I own and forfeit it, put out a forfeiture thing. And now they say they forfeiting anything in your mommy name, your sister name, your Grammy name, whatever. Because the Proceeds of Crime Act, was updated 218 to include all your family members, right? And when they updated, in the last class, a lady, she worked for the FIU, and she said, remember I said CFAT been at CFATF, been in the central bank, and they said, are we all law-abiding citizens? Nobody in the Bahamas has been charged with money laundering, ever. The governor hasn't been to jail, because remember I told you the governor in Brazil has been to jail. The president has been impeached. Nobody has ever been charged. And so therefore, are we all law-abiding citizens? So after that, they felt like we put all these laws in place in 2000 and prosecute nobody. What has happened? Some people have been prosecuted, but not under money laundering, all under fraud, which was a completely lesser charge. And so now, CFATF say, hey, should we don't think the Bahamas really abiding by these laws that they put in place. So now we gotta change our image. So she was told to go dig up all those boxes that in her office and see if she could bring some of those people before the courts. Okay? Because we gotta look good globally. Somebody gotta get prosecuted. Hence, you see, for the first time ever in my whole life, politicians are being brought before the court. Okay? That's why
fraud, right?
Hmm?
This was still fraud.
No, bribery and anti-corruption. Yeah. And then I guess they got stick. If one of them get charged, they can stick a little money laundering on that too, just to make it look good. But that's why I say, let us not be the first to go to jail. Because anybody right now, somebody has to go, just so our image could change, right? And who the young and impressionable and the people who don't have much experience, you just enter in the field. These people come in and swing you. They picking you up right away, no chance. Just because we have to have somebody charged on the books. So no, for true. So be very careful. Be very, very careful because they're getting international pressure. Okay? And so this is why the risk assessments are now mandatory. You offer this service, tell me how you can mitigate this risk. And guess what? We come in to check. And we come in to make sure we can check every account. If you say you don't offer bearer shares, we better not find no bearer share account in your bank. If you say you don't,
have the controls in place still?
pardon?
Even if they have the controls in place?
Why you have it in place if you don't offer it?
I'm just saying.
Think about it. All the other services that you offer. If you don't offer bearer shares and you gotta do this for each service? I just use bearer share as an example so we can understand.
Yeah.
We clear or we need to do another one? You're sure? Okay. Alright.
So most likely the majority of the banks would have the ordinary shares in place.
No, not the banks now. I come to open up a company account. And my company is made up of, they say, how many shares is this company valued,
Okay.
like that. And that's where the company has either ordinary or bearer. Right? Right. So if you have a company in the Bahamas, about 3 or 4 years ago, they say no. When you go down to the registry to establish your company, it has to be ordinary. You cannot do bearer shares. In Panama, until late last year or this year, you couldn't go to the registry, open up an account, and say, I want bearer shares. 3, 4 years ago, yes. There are a few countries, and so now, as the compliance department, you know what we do it? We have to make a list of all the countries that say it's illegal now. So when these people, because people still come and approach you, because they had their company for 20 years, and they ain't changed their memo and arts. And so when we read it and say bearer, we have to go and see, you are from the Seychelles, you are from Malta. Is it against the law? And we found one that was against the law, and we had to send that back. Or people from Panama, trying to rush, because I don't know if it's been tabled and finalized, but they were in talks about it for a while. And so because they were in talks, they say, oh, let me hurry up, open up these accounts before they make me change it. But you are supposed to have the proper controls in place, and what your control is, I have a review sheet. And a part of my review is that I will go and check to make sure these countries, where these accounts are registered, or these companies are registered, have not changed their laws. Okay? And all of this you have to do for just this one product that you accept. Right? And so, you know what banks say? Too administratively costly. Nobody have time for that. Nobody could check it. Nobody could keep abreast. But right now, with CRS and FACA, the people just closing out accounts. We're no longer a tax haven. Nobody bringing their money here. So now you find yourself having to deal with these high risk things that some banks will say, we don't deal with this at all. We don't want to bank with you if you offer bearer shares, if you have PEP accounts, if you do correspondent banking. We don't want to deal with you. Okay? But like I say, because so many accounts are closing, we have to go out into the unbanked. Who is what? So who's the unbanked? The number houses, right? Right? Mm-hmm. And so you find, all the Scotias and the Canadians say, no way. They ain't taking it. All the money service businesses, they don't want it. So they come in.
Too risky.
Right, there you go. And too administratively costly. Too much risk. How you keep check on all these things? And we have 50 other products that we have to put controls in place for. Then get the people to monitor these stuff. And then every day you all complaining about fees. So how?
But I thought BOB.
Okay, you thought BOB was doing what?
I mean,
Are you taking it?
I know like people and they were told to go and open up an account. I guess it's different for the people who work in than the people who own it. Because I know employees, they used to come to where I work to open up accounts, but then they were told to go to BOB.
Okay, let's talk about BOB. If BOB is the only bank, how many different banks in Bahamas we have? At least 7 or 8. Fidelity, Commonwealth. Okay. If only one bank in the whole Bahamas can take your money, what that mean? Okay. And the worst bank in the Bahamas is the only bank that can take your money. I'm sorry. No. I'm sorry to offend anybody. And then think about it. Think about it.
Take all kind of risks.
Think about it. Okay. We know what the deposit insurance is, right?
No, that's a lie.
We know what deposit insurance is, right? $50,000. Okay, so if I only could get back $50,000, and I'm a millionaire, you think I'm gonna go rest my million in BOB? So the number houses, they have probably $50,000 in BOB. I don't know if it's $50,000 per account or per relationship. That's the next thing. Because you could open up 5 accounts with put $50,000 on it. But nobody's gonna take that chance, especially under the last government, and it don't matter to me. Under the last government, when they had all these programs and all this delinquency and all that garbage, you was gonna put your $1 million in the Bank of the Bahamas?
No.
Okay. Not only you wanna feel that way, the whole Bahamas feel that way.
We ain't putting all this.
Right? And so the number houses are unbanked.
Yeah.
BOB don't count, I'm sorry. that don't count as. I'm sorry. Now they doing much better now. And then again, remember, changing the image.
That's gonna be the house.
Right?
It used to be foreign, right? What happened?
Bank of the Bahamas used to be foreign?
Well,
No, they had a branch in Miami.
They closed down.
Yeah, I think that didn't work
No,
out.
that didn't last long at all.
Wow.
I'm voting money.
Pretty much. Yeah, so because we are no longer a tax haven, we now gotta go run after the unbanked and say, open an account with us. Because private banking fees are very high. We charge them like $3,000 a year. And we don't give no interest, and so that's why we into Russia, that's why we into Iran and all these high risk jurisdictions. This is why we remember now we have these targets that we have to meet. So this is why we have to offer bearer share accounts and correspondent banking and then wholesale. Okay? You're sure you'll get it? We don't need to do one more.
And do one more, please.
Okay,
Yeah.
give it to her. She could do wholesale. We want to offer wholesale. Everybody know what wholesale is?
No.
Nobody know what wholesale is? Okay.
Fast.
So, wholesale is every month we shoot out statements.
Right.
Right. And remember now, we wanna evade taxes. And we have countries like Switzerland where Lord, everything is the Swiss are so confidential and afraid of their government. They think their government is spy on there. They don't want to talk to you on the phone. They don't want nothing to do with it. So they don't want no mail coming in the country because they feel like the government is go through your mail before they deliver it.
Yeah.
So a lot of countries, and then I'm married and I don't want my husband to know that my daddy leave me this $1 million. So of course don't send no statement to my house, right? Or somebody died and I say, oh Lord, you know money. I need to take up a collection to bury him, but he have insurance. So all sorts of things has happened why these people don't want no mail to come into their countries, and so we charge them $1,500, and we say we can keep your mail for you.
So how they get the mail?
They don't need it. Online banking don't need mail,
Alright.
and even before online banking,
Is
Yeah.
that a yearly charge?
$1,500 a year.
What's up?
Yeah, and so we say the normal price is like between $750 to $1,000, but where I work now, $1,500, and people is paid. So that's how serious it is. I don't want this wife to know I have this $1 million in the
So what if
Bahamas.
the bank's about to close down and you can't?
You gotta call by phone. And again, see, that's just it.
Might be
In your exit policy, you have to say which steps you are gonna take.
Okay.
In the event you cannot reach this person, or the bank is gonna close, or like we changed, somebody bought the bank where I work. So we had to call all the wholesale customers on the phone and say, do you wish to proceed, keep this account open? The shareholders are changing. Some people say, because Mexicans bought the bank. Some people say, Mexicans? Close that. Excuse me one second. Yeah, so I don't want to do business with Mexicans. Okay, imagine Donald Trump have an account with us. And we say, Donald, to Mexicans, remember he was heavily in the Bahamas back in the day. He used to run the Paradise Island Hotel, he had the airport and everything. So you should still have some money here, somewhere. And we say, Mexicans bought this bank. What do you think Donald Trump will say? Yeah, no. Close that account, whatever. Send them money, let me build a wall with that, right? Okay, so that's what happened. So those wholesale customers, we had to call them on the phone, and some of them said, I'll send you an email, or when on my next visit, I'll sign the disclosure form, or what have you, and then some just closed, and they said, close my account, I can send you all an email, but don't send me no mail, because in our wholesale policy and procedure, because you all know, of course, that's what have to be in place. We have to say, if you don't collect your mail in 3 years, we destroy it. Yeah, but technically,
Yes.
in the offshore world,
deviation, right?
compliance is an oxymoron. Like, these people are here to
Yeah,
evade
so
taxes
you're
and
supposed to be
do all the things they
complying
don't
with
do.
the international
But now
law and all
we
that.
are, because we
You're
just,
hiding
it's
your
CRS now, we have to report everybody, so no more hiding. So now, compliance is supposed to be in offshore banking, but prior to this year, no. It was non-compliant about evading taxes, but hey, you know. So that's, we understand what hold mail is.
Commercial banks offer home mail too, right?
Yeah, they do. We ain't gonna send you mail, we go hold it till you pick it up.
Where's that?
Commercial banks offering hold mail, yeah. So, let's see what central banks say. And central bank does not tell you what to do. But they give you advice, and then there's something called best practice, best operational practice that will make your life administratively easier. Because some of these tasks make it an administrative nightmare. Okay, so let's see what central bank says about hold mail.
Okay. Hold mail. Accounts are accounts where the account holder has instructed the SFI not to.
Supervised financial institution. I'm just telling you because somebody did not know that, and we had to, you know what I mean, these acronyms, they
Yeah.
trick you, so be careful with them. Just don't use them at all.
So the SFI not to issue any correspondence to the account holder's address. Regardless of the source of hold mail, business evidence of identity of the account holder should be obtained by the SFI in accordance with the paragraph 49, 1 and 3, and of these guidelines.
So you still have to verify the person. You still have to get their proof of address, but you just have to hold it on file. You don't put it in your system. Because you know these people is hack your system, that's what they feel. You sure it ain't in your system, right? No, it ain't in my system. Okay.
You said the SFI.
It's a supervised financial institution, meaning you supervised by central bank, Securities Commission, Compliance Commission, or what have you. Okay.
It is recommended that the SFI have controls in place for when existing customers change status to hold mail, and that the necessary steps to obtain the identity of the account holder are taken where such evidence is not already as the SFI's file.
Okay, so you must verify them, then you must have a procedure in place. Right? What else?
Okay, accounts with a charge-off address, that's charge-off CO?
No, in care of.
Okay, accounts with a CO address should be treated as hold mail accounts.
We have those accounts in our institutions. Send it to my lawyer. Send it to this person. Yeah, but are y'all classifying those as hold mail? No? And do you charge them? You do charge them. Okay, so if you charging them a hold mail fee, you only get a note if you don't have it classified correctly. Think about it. Okay.
Okay, accounts with care off address should not be treated as a whole mail account as mail is being issued, albeit not necessary to the account holder's address. There are, of course, many genuinely innocent circumstances where a care off address is used, but SIF should monitor such accounts more closely, as these accounts may represent additional risks.
Okay, that's right. That's it. That's closely. Okay. What that mean?
Monitor for any changes, anything.
Okay, that's it. That's all it said.
No,
Okay.
hold mail accounts should be annually monitored and
There you
reviewed.
go. So what that means?
That's a high risk.
High
They
risk.
still have to monitor it every year in case there's any changes that may happen. Like
Okay.
they can't let the year go by and
Yeah.
then say, well, we're not gonna monitor it, so.
Okay. So that falls in the high risk category, right? But some banks have argued that central bank didn't say must, and so they don't make those accounts high risk. But think about it. What other indicator do you have? What other flag? Remember, you're dealing with 800 accounts now. What other flag do you have to remind you that these accounts need to be reviewed annually? You could create something else, say. Or you have a category for hold mail. These are hold mail, they are not high risk. I mean, think about it. So operationally, best practices to make these things high risk, because like I said, you're dealing with 800 accounts. And you could even put something in the system, high risk because of wholesale, high risk because of bearer shares, high risk because of correspondent banking.
So even though
Okay.
they high risk, or if the system is in place to say we mark them as high risk, would give us that heads up to say now the year is up, now we have to do our checks.
When you open that account, you should, your system should, you have to have a date, you have to have,
Or something like that.
if your system can't, yeah, that's what I mean, you have to create a report or find an empty field in the system that'll prompt you, because you have to remember all these things.
Yeah.
When central bank or the internal and external audit come in, you can't say, oh, I didn't remember them, sir. You can't, that ain't acceptable, so you have to create indicators, you know, and I find that when you create 50 indicators, you confuddled. All of these accounts are high risk, and this is the reason why they're high risk. Because the review, I mean, in the commercial banking centers, they probably only have small files. But in private banking, these 50 pages, you gotta go and review. The account opening form is 30-some pages. And then you gotta check all the accompanying documentation, so, you know what I mean? So try to make your life easy, make them high risk, and every year the system should say, these are the accounts that are for review. And they must be signed off by compliance, and then it's compliance job to go out to the relationship managers, cause you have to run them down and beat them over their head and say, hey, your reviews are past due. You know, cause a lot of the private bankers are on the road bringing in sales and stuff like that. They don't take these things seriously, so it's up to you to be on them to get them into, you know, do all these different things. Right? So, we understand what type of controls we put in place, and how you document it. So central bank comes in and they say, what controls you are these high risk accounts? What do you do? I risk rate them as high. We verify the address even though it's old mail. We check them manually. And again, we have them with our most senior person in the private banking department, or, you know, they are in the banks, they are senior account officers and then junior account officers. So senior people should be dealing with the high risk. Junior person should be dealing with the low and medium, and then as you try move up the ladder, or they have you in cross training, whatever, then they should give you 1 or 2 high risk accounts to test them out and see the type of issues that you have to deal with. But I find that a lot of people dump all the high risk on the junior staff because they most transactional and they so be careful with that. Because one of the key things the central bank has to say that you are sufficiently trained. And when they ask for your resume and they see that you aren't sufficiently trained and you make a mistake, you know what the recommendation is, right? Try somewhere new. And then, like I say, as compliance professionals now, because we've had so many, what do you call it, people who just go from bank to bank to bank to bank, right? Now they create a list. Because remember, the MLRO is a regulated function. Central Bank and Securities Commission has to approve it. So when you go to this new job and they say, okay, we want to hire you, pending approval from Central Bank and Securities Commission, know your name on the list. So that's the end of your story, right? Okay. And this is why we're here. So our stories don't end, right? And we go all the way to the top. Okay. Very good. We on track? Okay. All right, so let's read chapter 5. We that's good?
Yeah, that's fine.
Clear?
Yeah.
All right. So I know the people that sit to the front just be mad if I don't let them read. You sure? But if you sure? All right. So we had a lot of. Oh yeah, even to this line we had a lot, except for you. Who? Yeah. Okay. So we can start with her, and then we can go back. Chapter 5. And let's see if what we said actually makes sense. If you know the discussion can tie into this chapter, or say no, Miss Bullet, you have to tell us another story. That one didn't work. All right. All right. Good. I want to make sure that everybody understands.
comprehensive compliance systems. A risk-based approach to money launder terrorist risk allow a company to be flexible when deciding where to concentrate their efforts. A risk-based approach, therefore, allows management to differentiate between customers by matching the risk in the particular business, allows senior management in certain circumstances to apply its own approach to the firm's procedures, systems, and controls, helps with producing a more cost-effective system, ensures attention and resources are focused where there are greater risks. There are challenges to both regulators and financial institutions in implementing a risk-based approach. In some cases, the staff are uncomfortable making risk-based judgments. However, in situations where management fails to recognize or underestimates the risk, a culture may develop within the company that allows inadequate resources to be devoted to compliance, leading to potentially significant compliance failures.
Okay, and that culture is so very important, because if people in the bank don't feel like compliance is everybody's business, we have a problem. Another, in this risk assessment, central bank encourages you to have 3 lines of defense. Anybody familiar with the 3 lines of defense? Anybody even know? Okay, so if we say that compliance is everybody's business, the 3 lines of defense start with who would be on the front line, right? And the account opening persons, because y'all are up front, these people, y'all should be able to decipher if these people are legit or not. I know back in the day, when numbers weren't legal, you know, a lot of people used to come inside the bank and say, hey, I read this number, Miss Bully, put this on account, you know, and what do? Numbers illegal, what you mean, deposit it?
Not they say right.
Yeah, but if you on the front line.
So they have to ask, you don't necessarily have to ask, depending on
No, but if
What you mean you don't necessarily have to, no.
No, what I'm saying is if I come
Then
in
you
the
walk
bank,
into the bank. Who work in the bank?
That.
Who work on the front line? Well, tell this gentleman what happened when you walk in the bank. Which form you fill out? You come to open up an account.
Oh, open up an account, I thought you meant.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Fine, but you declare the source of funds when you open an account. My account done been open, and I saying, I win this number.
And you expect the limit?
Oh, the threshold.
Some people
would say it if they don't know.
Some people would. And what branch y'all work at? Y'all never work East Street or whatever branch you say. There's your friends and they saying, I just win this number. They telling you. And Miss Bullet, deposit that quick, I can give you something. They talking from the door.
That's different.
Y'all ain't never had that?
Yeah, I heard it. You've heard of it.
Okay. Come on. Okay. Good. All law-abiding citizens. You know, all good. Very good. Very good. Yeah. So what do you do?
If
What
they
do you
say
do?
it, no, if they say it, yeah, then you can't take it. You have to.
That's your friend though.
That's your friend. And you get something. What do you mean you taking this money?
I can meet you outside.
Okay. So now. So now you take this money, right? And it's outside of the profile, and of course in the background, what happened in compliance? Ding 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 when the report come out tomorrow. Right. So who you think they calling first? Does compliance talk to customers? Okay, so they calling you.
They pulling the camera too.
You take this deposit yesterday. Did the customer explain to you what this money was for? Or where he got this money from? What you gonna say?
That's opening up an account now, right?
No, use the tell Use the first line of defense.
Alright.
What you could do? What you could say? What you could say to compliance?
He got an extra draw.
Yeah.
Okay, you could say he get an issue draw, right? Compliance could say, let him come in and fill out this form. When he come in and fill out this form, you out to lunch. Yeah man, I tell Miss Bullet, I get it, man, listen, I bought 3, 4, 5.
Give a
And
little
I even give a little something.
Even give a little something for lunch.
So what got happen?
Time is to come back from lunch and pack up your desk.
And, okay.
Cubicle to
Alright, so you have to be careful. This is why you're in first line offense. You can't, we used to have back in my day, we used to have a peanut boy. He started off with $100 every 2 weeks, then going to 5,000, then he going to $10,000, and he was our friend.
Selling peanuts, huh?
Okay.
What happened?
Peanuts
Women or everybody buying peanuts. Okay. But and he was the type too to come and say, "But Miss Bullet, you's my friend. You's things been on up and up for me. You need a little something me. I can wait a little something for you." And he saying this in front of everybody. So I said, what do you do in these cases? What do you do?
Sorry.
What do you do?
You mean if they try to deposit the money?
Yeah. Use the first line of defense, remember?
You have to provide proof of, I guess.
But you don't hear what they say.
You don't hear what they say.
But then you have to outright decline it if it's not within your policies, right?
You think that's
Or report it.
You have to report it.
you have to report it.
You don't even let them walk up to that.
You have to report it.
Hold on, let me call it.
No, you don't call the police. But what I'm saying is, you say, I'm sorry, numbers are against
It's
the
illegal.
law or whatever. I mean, you are supposed to take the money and
And confiscate it?
yeah, confiscate, deposit it to the account, put it on hold, tell the compliance department and all of that, yeah. Yeah, that's what they were supposed to do. Remember, what is the big law? What is the law? Tipping off, eh? You can't say I'm calling the police for you right now or the
So you
FIA.
take the money first and then you go in the back and call?
Yes, this is what you are supposed to do.
Well, I think nobody gonna want to.
Where you all work?
That's it.
Where you all work?
They buy strong money and then go in the back and call?
That's what you're supposed to do.
Train the people so they can do it.
Okay? Anyway,
We train several times a year.
well, excuse me, 1 second. Pass them back.
Oh, great. Yeah, you gotta start something.
Yeah, it's the most
I think
I don't know if I can even watch that.
I would say like the same that
Oh, this one.
But you gotta pay for the graduation certificate. That's why I'm going.
Okay, so your policy is, I don't want to, okay, we ain't getting to that yet. Your policy should tell you what you should do, right? And then there's a law, the Proceeds of Crime Act. You're not to tip off, right? And you're to report it to whoever is delegated in your institution as your MLRO. And your MLRO will do an investigation and then they'll decide if they want to report it. Now, the law says you can take that transaction and report it straight to them. But I'm sure there is a line, a chain of command in your institution, and they say do it that way, right? Because you may deem it as suspicious, and they may have called the manager and said, hey, I sold a piece of property, I can bring in this $5,000, and I can deposit it. You ran out of copies? Okay. All right. We'll get some more.
We have to sign in sheet as well, please.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So follow what your policy says about filing and tipping off. Be careful of it. Okay. You can't just take the money and say, I know these people, okay? Or give it back to them or say, sir, please hurry up, give the bank get this money, you're not supposed to. A lot of people have done it to say, they say, we can't take this money. You have to go to another branch and say something else. You're not supposed to do that because you are the first line of defense, right? To protect the bank against money laundering, against fraud, against illicit assets. Correct? This is why you're supposed to know your client. Why you're looking shocked like that's the basic?
Take people money.
Why they doing this to these people?
That's why.
She hurt. She like, no, don't do this. Like, I don't want nobody to take my money. Right? But okay, so gambling is now legal.
Legal, right?
But I don't know anybody working the Canadian banks. If they show, I already have my account. If I go and say, oh, I win one number, will they take it?
No, not CIBC.
But it's legal.
They still don't.
Yeah, but we
So-
as a bank can decide if we
We
want that
just,
many.
I don't know, we can funnel up us and then we
But it's legal now. But we had the accounts when it was illegal.
Exactly.
But so you tell me legally. Also, if we went to Atlantis, you could say you win a number. You got because you know they have these high-ranking poker games,
But we still
and
can't play over there, no?
we still can't play in the casino.
Right.
But suppose we got a pass, and we win the poker game. They'll take the money from Atlantis or Bahama. No,
Because we're not supposed to be playing in the casino.
no. What I'm saying is suppose it's these, you know, those them poker stuff that they and you
take it?
going on the slot machines or whatever.
We can play the poker thing.
I don't know. I'm just saying. Suppose like it's a special. Suppose it's a special game or special license or something in the gaming board. Say, go ahead, you can enter into this poker game.
But you gotta declare something.
They'll take it because that's a game and board.
Right, and so I could come to the bank with my approval from the gaming board
Yeah.
to participate in this poker game.
Oh, that's what you mean.
Yeah, cause like they have these poker challenges and they go to Las Vegas one year and then this year and whatever. So now they come to the Bahamas. They can say the Bahamians can't play. I play in Las Vegas, so I play this place. I come into when you say CIBC with my approval and everything, you're still gonna take the money
Yes, yes.
from Atlantis or Bahama.
I know about that one. You have approval?
Approval, you got approval from the regulators, right?
Yeah.
Well, and then they, and Ireland lock them.
That's what I say. That's what I trying to distinguish. You could take Atlantis money, but you gonna take out and lock them on day. You ain't taking none. That's okay.
Yeah, you have to stick with the policy say even though if it approved, if the bank say no,
No
it's
way.
no.
Because the bank has the right to take the money. You have to. If they want to take them,
That's right.
They do. Again, where you say the bank have the right to take the money that they want to take, and where is this right documented?
Guidelines.
No, in their risk appetite.
that if they don't see fit.
Yeah, like we don't
They
take
can
monies
decline,
from
yeah,
this
whatever
type of
business they want.
Right. Okay, good. All right, so back to the readings. From supervisor's perspective.
From the supervisor's perspective, sample testing should be used or individual decisions reviewed as a means to test the effectiveness of the institution's overall risk management. In implementing the risk-based approach, companies should be given the opportunity to make reasonable judgments. No two companies are likely to adopt the same detailed practices. In this regard, regulators should identify and disseminate guidelines on sound practice which may prove challenging to guidance, supervisory training, industries, and other available information and materials will assist supervisors in determining whether a company has made sound risk-based judgments. FATF Recommendation 1 obligates a company to identify and assess its money laundering, terrorist financing risk for customers, countries, or geographical area, and products, services, transactions, or delivery channels. The assessment should be documented in order to demonstrate their basis, be kept up to date, have mechanisms for providing risk assessment information to competent authorities or regulatory bodies. Companies are also required to have policies, controls, and procedures that enable them to manage and mitigate effectively the risks that have been identified. They should monitor the implementation of those controls and to enhance them if necessary. Senior management should approve the policies, controls, and procedures. The measures taken to manage and mitigate the risks should be consistent with national requirements and with guidance from competent authorities.
Right, and so hence what we did today, we didn't say this our control. We went to the central bank, and if the Securities Commission regulates us, or the Compliance Commission, the Insurance Commission, we get their guidelines and we say, what does the law require? And that's what we put in our guideline.
So y'all can enhance that a little bit too, right?
You could, the Canadian.
Just the basic.
Yeah, that's the basis. So if you don't want, or that's the basic, you don't wanna be in charge with in trouble with the regulators, right? You don't want hefty fines and you don't want your institution to close down. So Canadian banks, if with like proof of ID, the law says one form of ID, the Canadian banks, they say two. You know why? Because there's human error. There's a lot of things that can happen, and so normally Canadian banks, they ask for double. If the law says one thing, they ask for double, so they're never in problems, because I know people make mistakes, and then sometimes people just don't do their work. And so for you to always have an extra layer of defense, they ask for double with the regulator. So when you write these policies, they may say, oh, you're being too exact, but no, this is how you stay out of trouble. The law asks for one thing, you ask for two. Okay? So you're dealing with a lot of people and a lot of accounts. Okay, because the retail banks have like 15,000 and 20,000 accounts. Right? So imagine trying to manage all of that. Yeah.
In summary, a risk-based approach includes the following areas: risk identification and assessment, customers, products and/or services, delivery channels, and geographic areas of operations. Risk management and mitigation, risk monitoring, documentation. Companies must determine how simple or complex their risk assessment should be. In some cases, a company may have automated systems, or a binary system where customers are automatically rated high risk because they are involved in high risk business and subject to enhanced due diligence.
Okay, so what if we had this automated system, what would we put in it to make these customers automatically high risk?
Depend on the product or the service they provide.
Right, so the minute you're a PEP, high risk.
You have to flag it.
Bearer shares, wholemeal, high risk. Correspondent banking, high risk. So once you select these service, no matter what you do, automatically you high risk.
Do you think financial institutions just automatically do high risk due diligence on everybody one time?
Yeah,
And
some
just
people do enhanced due
go into
diligence
all
on
this?
everybody, yeah. Because essentially, when you come in, we don't know you, right? And so,
Yes,
word
we do
check
the same
to me ain't always enough. So, the internet is there. Do an internet search, and all you have to do is print it. You could. People have been asking for CVs.
What is a CB?
A resume?
Yeah, a resume. Yeah. So we. I used to think that it was too much. I said, this is ridiculous. If I go to open up an account and they ask me for my CV, I ain't gonna say no. That's too personal. They don't need it. But we got a subpoena from the Attorney General, and the Attorney General said that please confirm to us that this person is a PEP, because you know all that stuff is going on in Greece, and there should be Greece bankrupt, everything default, whatever. The people go into the ATM every day, 2 hours, and they get $60. I don't know if it's still happening, but last year and earlier this year, that's what was happening. So you still have your mortgage, you still have your school fees, you still have to eat, and you only can get $60 a day.
So what if they go into the bank?
The banks
You know, the banks were closed. You know, going into the banks was closed. So there was a person here that was a PEP in Greece and had an account, right? And so they said, we want to ensure that your system has this person flagged as a PEP. Okay? So no matter what transaction they do, I mean, they could be from a low risk country, because remember, we get our risk ratings from the Basel Committee, right? The country risk ratings. And the Basel Committee puts in 14 categories to overall rate your country, and they say the Bahamas is medium high, right? They give a percentage based on these 14 categories. A risk rating sheet normally looks like this, and it has like 10 to 15 categories. The client, the country of work, the business activity, the type of account, or what have you, right? And so these different factors, you may be in a low risk jurisdiction. Me in the Bahamas, so anybody from the Bahamas, and this for offshore, of course, we wouldn't have the Bahamas as high, let's be in the Bahamas, so that'll be low. If you only work here and you don't work internationally, that'll be low. The type of account, you only want a regular savings account, that'll be low. We met the beneficial owner, so again, all these things, overall you low. And then you say you're a pet, ding. Now you become high risk. So outside of PEPs and wholesale and correspondent banking and what have you, persons can still be high because these 14 categories add up and make you high risk. But there are a lot of people who are low, but just because they have this particular service, they become high. Okay? So that's how the risk works. Okay, so you should have a system that when they select these different service or products, automatically high risk. No matter what their country is or their business sector rating is, or no matter how much money they bring in. Okay? Be clear? Alright.
In determining whether a customer requires simplified due diligence or enhanced due diligence, it is necessary for the company to have a formal money laundering, terrorist financing risk assessment should be carried out regularly. Ensure that internal procedures, systems, and controls, including staff awareness, adequately reflect the risk assessment. Ensure the customer identification and acceptance procedures reflect the risk characteristics of customers. Ensure that arrangements for monitoring systems and controls are robust and reflect the risk characteristics of customers.
Okay, so what the regulator will look in when they come in is you offer correspondent banking. In correspondent banking, they say everybody in the SWIFT department must have extra training, or every institution now, there's a mandatory AML training that you sign off on every year, right? So outside of that, the people in the wire department who deal with the correspondent banking must have a separate training. And so if central bank comes in and you don't even have a policy on correspondent banking, and you don't have evidence that these people was sufficiently trained, then you have a problem. And then evidence that everybody in your whole bank sign off on any money laundering training. Hence you see how the fine develops and how the note develops. And then whose responsibility is this to make sure that the bank is compliant?
MLRO.
Okay, so what happens to the MLRO? Gone. Okay. Yeah, so let's continue reading.
Designing an AML and CFT strategy. In order to design a strategy for AML and CFT, a company should be mindful of the primary objectives of the money launderer. Companies are reminded that the higher the risk, the greater the due diligence and level of monitoring required to manage the risk. A company should assess its business risk, taking into consideration its organizational structure, the sector within which it operates, and the nature of its customer base. A well-reasoned risk-based strategy may be as follows. Actively monitoring all members of senior management in determining the risk posed by money laundering and terrorist financing for which they have the responsibility. Taking into consideration internal decisions which may increase the level exposure to the risk of money laundering outsourcing. Taking into consideration the nature, scale, and complexity of the business, its operations, volume, and size of transactions. Questions to be addressed in identifying and managing specific money laundering risks. What risk is posed by the company's customers? Example, no legitimate commercial rationale for a complex business ownership structure. What risk is posed by a customer's behavior? There is no commercial rationale for the customer's purchase of the produce she seeks. How does the way the customer counts to the company affect the risk? Introduce business countries with poor regulatory controls. One of the first steps in assessing product and service risk is to determine the characteristics of the product service being provided to customers. That is, it can be used for money laundering or terrorist financing, or does the product facilitate payments to third parties? From a jurisdictional perspective, the following are considered potentially higher risk: cross-border corresponding banking, private banking and wealth management, trust and corporate services, banking and precious metals, trading and delivery, online banking, stored value cards, e-money and international wire transfer.
Okay, sorry, so we wanna offer trust accounts now. What should we have in place? There's a new product and service, this come to, the compliance department. We want now offer trust accounts.
You know what rating fall in? What product it is, what rating fall in. And based on the rating, I do due diligence to put in place, what controls the policy.
Funny. Okay, so if our risk appetite didn't have, cause trusts are high risk.
We have to create a policy.
If we have to create a policy or add the trust accounts as a service to our risk appetite, then like you said, we have to put the policy in place and the controls in place. Suppose we don't have a trust officer,
And you have to get
Yeah,
one
trained personnel.
right? Cause trust is a highly specialized area to bank. Just seeing just like operations or what should I say, the receptionist or whatever like that. So in the absence, central bank will look at you sideways if you say, I offer trust accounts and I don't have a trust officer. And they will look at that. If you do say, okay, we wanna offer this service, we have trust accounts, this is who we hired. But this person don't have a first degree and they didn't do steps, what you think will happen?
It'll be fine. Somebody be fine.
They ain't qualified.
Okay, or sufficient years of experience. But even with sufficient years of experience, if you have to have somebody in your organization that has a step designation, or you should not be offering trust accounts. And these smaller banks try it, like you wouldn't really see it at the JP Morgans, cause you know they have like 500 people across the globe. No, these smaller boutique banks try and say, oh, Ms. Bullitt, you've been here for 10 years, you know what I mean, you've done trust before, you worked in the trust, you know what I mean, and they try to push you into these, but make sure that it's, you have somebody who can understand the risk associated with trust accounts, okay, and then you as compliance have to understand the risk associated with it. Every product and service that they take on, so like, we developing a new arm for the securities business. So fine, you have all the designations for ICA, you approve of MLRO, but now you never dealt with capital markets. What you have to do, your recommendation when they send us down to compliance and they say, we now have a new capital markets arm. What you think have to happen? Because now you gotta deal with compliance and securities fraud and the Volcker Act and the SEC and the SOX Act and all these different, you remember Martha had been to jail?
Yeah.
Right, all these things now you have to know how to understand how to identify them, right, as a compliance officer. So what will you do? Sometimes your recommendation, not only for the new person to be hired or somebody with the Series 7 have to be hired, now you have to say compliance has to go and take a course in securities trading, right? Okay, so be prepared for these type of things, because right now, especially in the offshore world, banks have to make money, and so they dabbling all over. So you may have sufficient training and the number of years experience, but when you're dealing with trust, that's a specialized area. When you're dealing with capital markets, that's a specialized area. Okay, so you may yourself have to say, not only do you have to hire somebody with these designations who have sufficient training, and you better do that, or else who job could be harder? You think the bank will care that you never work in a trust company and you never do securities trading and you never do the securities trading? No, that could be compliance job until somebody sufficiently trained is hired. And remember now, you ain't even trained in that area. You just gonna go take the course. So you better be in on those interviews to make sure they don't hire no lovers and friends. And they hire somebody who
No, they don't.
do know what they're doing. Because that's definitely where you would go to jail. And especially when they think you don't know, when they, what are some of the terms in capital markets, what they say? What did Martha Stewart do? Oh Lord, what did she do? She, it was about the sell insider trading.
Inside trading.
Yeah, so how now as compliance do you identify insider trading? Be familiar with that at all? Okay, so what you could do, I need to cross train in the securities department for the next month, and then I go and find a course to upgrade myself, so at least you could identify any risks or fraud or insider trading, right? Okay, so think about all these things.
While some products and services present a lower risk, no product or service is immune from being used in the laundering process. Assessing delivery risk involves taking into consideration whether the relationship with the customer is indirectly conducted through intermediaries or introducers, whether the relationship is face-to-face, and whether the produce is capable of being controlled remotely by the customer e-commerce. Assessing customer risk involves in determining the appropriate due diligence when entering into a relationship, and ongoing due diligence and monitoring of transactions throughout the relationship. Assessing customer risk for AML CFT should not be undertaken in isolation from checks made for other businesses' needs, credit rating, fraud prevention checks, and conflict of interest checks. All information gathered on a customer for vetting should be applied to determine the AML CFT risk. Assessing geographical country risk is closely related to customer or counterparty risk. Where jurisdictional risk is deemed to be high, additional measures including enhanced due diligence are required. In some cases, countermeasures may need to be applied, or transactions with particular jurisdictions may be prohibited. Higher risks are associated with countries that are identified by FATF as having strategic deficiencies, major drug producing or transit countries, not making efforts to confront or eliminate human trafficking, involved in proliferation of nuclear or other weapons, vulnerable to bribery or corruption activities, politically unstable, excessive secrecy laws.
Okay, so let me tell you an experience that we had recently. So, you know, the Basel Committee risk rates countries, and countries like Russia, we are medium high, Russia is medium high, Mexico is medium high.
Mexico is good again?
Medium high, yeah, medium high.
What about Bermuda?
I don't have the list, but you could go on the Basel Index and look at the I only have the categories that they use. And they say to risk rate your country, we use 14 categories, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they all fall into these 5: money laundering, terrorist, financing risk, corruption risk, financial transparency and standards, public transparency and accountability, and political and legal risk. And then they have the 14 different things, that the reports from your country that they use to determine your overall risk. And then they give your country a score.
Wow.
So we have the country list, and Russia is like 6.8. I think anything over 7 is high. So that's like medium, very, very close to high. And we offer correspondent banking services. And the country's corruption perception index, CPI index, is one of these categories that they use to risk rate the country. And our correspondent bank, we send some money to Cameroon and we send some to Madagascar. They send our payments back and they said, we do not send money or do business with countries where their corruption perception index is below 30. So I had to go and read up on corruption perception indexes. All I know is that it was one of the categories within the Basel Index to risk rate the countries. But the CPI index, apparently anything below 45 is considered high risk. And you would have people saying like, we open an account with this person who actually lives in Madagascar. But if our correspondent banking, our correspondent bank does not accept any payments from or to this country, why would, and this is where he lives, why would we even open this account? You know what I mean? And so, therefore, that means people from these areas, we can't offer a service to. Or you need to close the account. In fact, they sent back all our Russian payments too, because the CPI index for Russia was 29. Places like Venezuela is like 18. Okay? So you have, they are different, it depends on the risk appetite again of the correspondent bank. They say don't send us any money from countries below a CPI index of 30. Okay? So if you are, is our correspondent bank, and in our risk appetite we say we deal with Russia, Madagascar, and Cameroon was the next place. What do we do? Of course, this dropped on compliance lab. What do we do? Find another correspondent bank?
Use the exit.
Find an exit strategy.
There you go. But we don't be trying to stay open. Exit strategy meaning
You
we
lose
don't
your
open
money.
up accounts,
No
we
money.
don't get paid. Right?
But then you still have to stay within your guidelines, so once you check the CPI and they high or close to high, then we can't do it.
But this ain't our guideline. It's the correspondent bank guideline.
Oh.
You see what I mean?
Send
It ain't.
Pretty easy.
No, it ain't.
easy.
It
Can
ain't.
send another bank that
That
has a
take it
CPI over, or another country that has
I
a
think
CPI
that-
over 30, and that them transfer to them and that's okay.
No, it don't work like that. It ain't.
So then what did you do?
We had to write our correspondent bank and we had to tell them we have a service level agreement with them. When we open an account, if there was a major change, they didn't advise us, these payments must go through. Now they send us a letter back and say, yes, those payments went through because we weren't advised. Please
Now
accept
you
this
are.
as your official advisement that we will not
After
take
this,
any
no more
payments from these countries.
Okay.
Yeah, so now we back at the drawing
So you
board.
get a slide that one pass and that's it.
Yeah, we get a little slide, but now we have a bigger problem, right?
They take it no more.
No, because it wasn't like the beneficial owner was just sending it to that person. He actually lives in Cameroon, so he was sending money from one account to the next. So we can't go and change where he lives. You know what I mean? And then Russia, with correspondent banks today, they give you an application form and they ask you what percentage of your business is Russian, what percentage of your business is high risk, how many PEPs do you have? And one bank like Morgan Stanley came back to us and said, oh, we don't do business with PEPs, we don't do business with Russia. If you close on these 3 Venezuelan accounts that you have, then we'll consider you. Yeah, so they have very strict stipulations. People, like I say, they don't do business with these type of places. And because they are sanctioned countries. And just like the bearer shares require so much monitoring, so much administration, the same thing with these sanctioned countries. With Russia, every payment that's sent, we have to go to the sanctions, we have to read it, we have to make sure that the sanctions ain't changed, that it ain't on precious metal or wood or something like that, because they're on specific. You cannot send any payment for wood. You can't send nothing for lumber. You can't do this. And then Donald Trump is very volatile with all these trade wars. You know what I mean? You have to keep it. So nobody has time to do that because remember, we have 800 other clients that we're dealing with every day. So are you going to have one dedicated person who is sufficiently trained to keep monitoring? And I'm telling you, it takes half a day and you disley payments. You know, because almost every payment that comes through the system, you get a hit. And you can't release that money. If you're prepared to go to jail, you better check. Or be prepared to go
So
to
you
jail.
gotta, that one person job is basically to do all the checks.
Yeah, all the screening.
You need more help.
Yeah.
Train them.
Because all day they stuck with hits and screening and back and forth and stuff like that, investigations. And then the clients now on the next end calling and screaming, it's my money with these, why my money in these? You know what I mean? And I talking about we sending like $100,000 here, $300,000, $1 million, very large amounts. So You stopping, they saying the days that it take, he losing interest, he want his interest back with his $1 million that was in transits, all sorts of stuff. Yeah, so you gotta be, careful and aware that it may not be your policy, but your counterparty's policy or anybody you do business with, they may have a different policy from you. So you two gotta be on the same page. Yeah. Okay.
A risk assessment is only as good as the day it is done and information is used. A company faces many AML and CFT risks, and these are constantly changing as criminals move to alternative methods for transmitting their criminal funds. In conducting a risk assessment, the following risks should be considered: criminal risk of money laundering, regulator risk, example fines, withdrawal of license, legal risk, exposure to litigation, reputational risk, follows criminal or regulatory risk, regulatory compliance risk, expensive remediation to correct business failures.
How many more copies of who doesn't have one? Me. 6? 6.
Concentration risk, assets and liabilities too concentrated on certain borrowers or groups of related borrowers, or liabilities too concentrated in small groups of depositors. Liability risk results from materialization of legal, reputational, and regulatory risks. Credit risk, operational risk, financial risk. Costs of defending a charge of money laundering. In conclusion, risk assessment is a continuous event as risks change, customer activities and profiles on a company's products and services and delivery evolve. The company should monitor the environment in which they operate. Periodic assessment should be made of the company's sector to ascertain whether customers' behavior is changing and whether these should be taken into consideration.
Okay, so give me an example of credit risk. Give me an example of credit risk.
When they
Like
default on me.
lending money, I guess. Borrowers, people borrowing money.
Yeah, and they defaulted,
Okay.
Suppose bankruptcy. Suppose, a lot of these banks have small business units and they lend money to these companies,
Yeah.
right?
Right,
Yeah, and the company fails. What happens?
They don't get their money.
Okay, what about operational risk? So what type of, when you write in your risk assessment, what controls would you put in place for these to mitigate credit risk?
Insurance.
Very good.
The
So a
insurance
lot of
only
banks.
the insurance only cover in the event that if something
Or
happens.
you can
No,
hold,
no, no.
you can hold collateral.
Scotia
Yeah,
has insurance on, not for debt,
I think I'm
On-
concerned
on.
with insurance or not.
is it only debt?
Yeah.
It's only on that day. Most of, okay,
So, for instance, if Atlantis closed down for Commonwealth Bank,
We only have collateral.
only if you
okay,
have
so
the
you
collateral.
collateralize loans, okay,
So
yeah, and
what
then
happens?
only insurance on that.
So what will happen?
Yeah.
Well, Atlantis is a big asset, so I'm sure they'll find a buyer, and then how it works, they pay preferred shareholders first than ordinary. I don't know if they pay debt first, I don't know, I think they pay,
pay up the debtors.
they pay debtors first, and then what's left you get, right, so that's the coverage there.
Like a lien.
Yeah, so Atlantis would be, like she said, collateralized. Because they have sufficient assets, I hope, to cover all their debts. I hope. I hope, okay, so you, in your, controls, you'll have that, these loans are insured against debt. What else? And collaterals are held against, right, yeah. So normally, and you can say, we only give loans on less than 5,000 that are unsecured. Or all our loans are by salary deduction, because a lot of these banks say, we only do salary deduction, but, loans, you all see that, right? So that's a control that they have in place to,
Security man.
secure against credit risk, right? Okay, what about operational risk?
operate.
Yeah, remember now we offering correspondent banking, so they have to have the extra training, right? Right.
She need one.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Alright, what else? What else is an operational risk? What are we protecting against?
Knowing the customers, you have to open an account, we have to make sure the procedures in place.
Make sure you have a good appetite.
Yeah, that you don't go outside the appetite